by the way?
Yes, I can see your PDF.
I don't see it on Zoom.
Oh, you don't? Okay,
Oh.
we can see your whole screen, and then
It's okay.
I can see
It's okay.
it's a PDF. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Hey, Manuel, I'm doing fine, thank you. All right, let me go ahead and begin. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to our Virtual Career Day series with the Los Angeles Public Library. My name is Lynn Wynn, and I'm here with my co-host, Jessica. Say hi, Jessica. There she is.
Hello.
We've been doing this for weeks now, and I'm sure you guys all know us very well by now. So just so you know, we're so excited to have you here for our Virtual Career Day series featuring our three amazing guest speakers. They are architects and senior designers. And if you're here interested in learning how to build things and learn more about architecture, you are at the right place. And we're just so excited to have them share their passion and their experience with you. So hopefully you will be inspired to get a career in architecture. So before we begin, I would like to go over some housekeeping rules. We ask that you keep your microphone muted and your videos turned off. And just so you know, we are recording our Zoom session to make it available online for those that are not able to attend. So if you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your cameras and keep your microphones muted. Okay, and then if possible, you can go ahead and at the top right-hand corner, you can make your screen full screen. Leave it on speaker view if you have to. And then towards the very end, there is going to be a Q&A session with all of our guest speakers. So you are welcome to engage with them and ask questions. But of course, at any time during the session, when you do have a question, please feel free to put in the chat box, and Jessica and I will do our best to ask those questions for you, okay? And if you're not shy, again, at the very end, you can unmute yourself and ask those specific questions. So just please be respectful of everyone in the chat box and to keep your comments related to the careers today. And we hope that you enjoy today's program. At the very end, there are going to be two surveys for you to fill out. So please do fill those out for us because they'll help us so much. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start our interview today with Sylvia Menka. Sylvia, hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
Okay, Sylvia here is a dear friend of mine. She is a senior designer at Space Architects. So Sylvia, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company that you work for.
So hi, my name is Sylvia. I am from Sardinia, which is a big island in Italy. So just something about myself. I graduated in 2010 back home in Italy, and then I came to the US in 2015. Our firm here, Space Architecture, focuses on high-end retail and residential. So luckily, I was already doing high-end retail back home. It was just coincidental. And then that's how actually I got this job offer. So if you want to know what it takes to become an architect, first of all, I am a licensed architect back home. I cannot call myself an architect in the US because I don't have a license over here. So my colleagues know what's the deal. So you pretty much need to attend a school of architecture, get a bachelor degree, which is depending on the country 4 to 5 years. In my case, it was 5 years. I know here is 5 years as well. After you graduate, I would strongly suggest to immediately take your license because it's a lot of exams and you might get to it while you're still fresh from school. So you don't want to go back on the books, 10 years later, 20 years later. So that's what I did. I got my license 2 years after I graduated. What made me choose architecture? This is weird because I wanted to be a doctor. And then I was going through the test books for the admission test, and I realized I was never gonna make it. I was like, yeah, I had to study another 5 years just to take the test. So I always liked to draw, and in high school I actually attended a course for 5 years that was focused on technical drawing. So I was already familiar with plans and elevations and these type of drawings. So I just decided I wanted to get into architecture school. I didn't even apply to any other school. So it was either that or I don't know. I didn't have a plan B. So I guess that was pretty reckless of me, but I made it. And 5 years later, I graduated. I don't know what is
That's
good about
awesome.
art.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
love about architecture, or what
It's
inspires you?
a love-hate relationship. It takes a lot of your time, of commitment. You will find yourself working late at night, over the weekend, over the holidays, because you have some deadline. Um, so that's the part that I both love and hate. I mean, I don't mind working late sometimes because at the end you're gonna see uh, the products of your hard work. And then it's just I like the fact that you are able to create uh, a space. We work with space. We modify a space and we craft it to be inhabited, to be visited. Um, we work around the people basically and their needs. So in our case, doing high-end retail, it's all about, for example, the lighting, furniture design, how you actually um, modify, let's say, a rectangle, just an empty plan, an empty space, how you make it become a store that gives you an experience.
That's amazing. Would you be able to tell us about some of the projects you've worked on, or share a few photos?
Yeah, so right now I'm sharing my screen. Our firm is actually part of a group that comprises 4 more firms. So we try to be global. We have an office in Milan, which is where I work sometimes when I go back home. And then we have an office in New York, one in Boca Raton, Florida, and one in Toronto. So we work with the most popular retail brands. I try to select some of the latest projects because we really have so many. It was really hard. So I picked some that you might know because they're pretty. For example, this is the Aesop store that's in Century City, here in LA. We did this about 3 years ago. It was a challenge because of all those styles. I manually drew every single brow thickness, but the result is really nice. We actually have a strong partnership with Aesop, and we do the majority of their store here in Southern California and also Central California. So this is just some of the stores that we did with them. This is in Corte Madera. This is in San Diego. So some of them you might be able to come across just maybe going shopping. This one is in San Francisco, for example. And then we tend to not just do one project. With every client, they tend to give us 2 or 3, depending on the moment, because retail is also, it's not always the case that you get a lot of projects. It comes and goes. It fluctuates a lot based on the economy. Even though high-end retail still manages to go pretty well, even when the economy doesn't. So pretty much we always have work, even during COVID, during recession. It's less work, but still. This some other stores that we did for Swiss luggage brand. This one is in Beverly Hills. We did a few stores in Beverly Hills, as you can imagine, just because of the nature of the clients. We have done stores almost across the entire country. We work a lot in New York, New Jersey, Florida, of course, California, well, Texas, anywhere. This is actually my very first big project here in LA. It's the Stone Island flagship store on La Brea first. This was pretty challenging as well because it's huge. And I was working here for maybe 1 year, and they gave me this project, and it was challenging, lots of detailing. So, but we're very happy about the result. I selected this image because this is one of the few projects where we actually had the opportunity of work on the exterior as well, not just the interior. So the team back then designed the entire skin of the building. This used to be Missoni. I think now it's Saint Laurent in Beverly Hills. But they kept the skin. It's all modular. Actually, it's the same module that repeats, but just turning it, rotating it doesn't look like it repeats. And these are the interiors for the store back then. We did a lot of work with Versace. I wasn't here, but this is a project from many years ago. Our firm had a very strong relationship with that brand and with the founder back then when he was still alive. As I said, we also do some residential projects, mostly high-end. What I'm showing here is a rendering because it's still a work in progress. So we don't have final photos. They're doing the landscape right now and adding the last core 10 details. This one is in Long Beach, and it's actually 2 buildings. A front building, which is a condominium, and then a private residence here in the back. Yeah, these are pretty sweet.
Yeah, they look so pretty. Wow, that's so
and
beautiful.
this is another private residence in Malibu. We designed the entire kitchen. This required a lot of detailing because it's an existing apartment, and they just wanted to redo all the finishes and the kitchen. So everything was custom made in Italy and just shipped over here. Some of the projects that will open soon, they were just, the opening was postponed because of COVID. This is the Versace store in the San Jose Mall. This one is actually in Albuquerque. It'll be completed, I believe, by the end of August. And then this one as well is in the Valley Fair Mall in San Jose. Yeah, so what COVID did, it basically stopped construction on every single mall. So which is where we work the most, high-end malls. So
I was going to ask, how has COVID affected your job as a senior designer? Are you still able to work from home, or I see you're in your office, but how often do you have to go to the office?
Yeah, we try to rotate. So right now it's just me at the office. I believe my colleagues are probably joining on Zoom. The advantage of being an architect and doing this job is that you only require a computer and an internet connection. So, and the access to your server. So with that, you can pretty much work anywhere in the world. So that's actually a strength. We are able to work when we travel to the Milan office, when we go to Florida, New York, anywhere in the world. Even if you're on vacation in Japan, anywhere. As long as you have an internet connection, it's just.
How long does it take for you to complete each project, or how long does each project usually take?
Depending on the size, let's say the smallest might take a year, including permitting, construction administration. Usually the construction cycle for a small size store varies. It might be 10 weeks.
Oh,
A
okay.
bigger store might be 14 to 16 weeks, but it's very, very fast. So throughout
Wow.
the year, you're actually able to manage 6, 8, 10 projects. Some of them you work on at the same time. So you just work your schedule around it.
Okay. Very cool. What are some of your challenges and rewards as a senior designer?
Well, of course, seeing a store or any project completed. And when we get on site the first time, it's basically a concrete slab and 4 walls. So from that to an actual store with all the lighting, the shiny brand new millwork fixtures, and the merchandise, and then seeing it actually open for business, that's a big satisfaction, and it's the accomplishment we all look forward to. And of course the client satisfaction and the customers when they tell you, oh, that's it, you did a good job, that's pretty much it.
That's cool. I know we're running out of time. I wanted to ask you maybe one more question or 2 more questions. Like, what is does your company offer internship opportunities for students or students in architectural school?
We do in periods when we're not too busy, because we would train this person. So the interns need to be trained, and they would work with us all day. We would assist them. They have lots of questions, so sometimes unfortunately you don't really have too much time to dedicate to them. But that is definitely an option. We
good to know.
Interns, yeah.
Okay,
So,
and then my last question for you is, if you could turn back time to your 18-year-old self, what is one advice you would tell yourself, or what's something you would tell yourself? And then and maybe an advice that you would give to all of our teens that are interested in becoming or learning more about architecture.
So my advice is that you should choose a school path that you like, but also that you have to look forward to what happens after you graduate. So I think my advice is to merge your passion, because you require a lot of that in order to complete your studies. If you don't like what you're doing, it's just much harder. And then also think about what you want to do after. If you think you might require, I don't know, additional studying, why not like a master course, or a more technical course, anything that will take you to do the job you want. And that doesn't really come when you're applying for college. You only know, I want to be an architect, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. But while the more you progress in your studies, the more you will understand if you want to specialize more into something other than something else. So just absorb anything you can from your professors, your friends, everything. Travel if you can. Just look at the world with eyes wide open, and because no one's gonna tell you what to do. You have to figure it out. But
That's great advice. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sylvia, for sharing with us your background and for giving great advice to our teens. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to toss it over to Jessica to interview Rodrigo next.
Thank you, Glenn. And thanks, Sylvia. And now I'm really excited to introduce you all to Rodrigo, who works in a different type of art environment. And Rodrigo, why don't you tell us why don't you start by telling us about where you work and what it is that you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Rodrigo. I'm from Brazil originally. Similar to Sylvia, I graduated in 2010 back in Brazil. And I moved to the US in 2016. I'm a sports architect and master planner. It's a little bit different scale to what Sylvia works on. She works on, retail and residences. And I work on very big master plans for huge events. The bulk of my time has been dedicated to work on Olympic Games. That's how I started in Brazil. I work for AECOM, which is a multinational company with about 90,000 employees around the world. Not all of them are architects. Actually, we're a small, fraction of that number. And then on the sports architecture, it's just a small studio with a couple of different locations around the world. I started with AECOM in 2012 back in Brazil. That's when AECOM London won the competition to design the master plan for the Rio Olympic Park for the Games in 2016. So I started working on that as an architect, helping design some of the arenas within the park, discuss, a little bit the requirements from the different stakeholders, and the city, the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, and all of the, and then essentially the venue owners after the games were done. After a successful delivery of that project and the games, and actually before moving to the US, I started working with the LA committee. They were still bidding for the chance to host the games here in LA as well. I ended up moving here in 2016. Have been working with them since. We initially, LA bid to host the 2024 Games, Summer Olympics, but at a last minute, mystery turn of events, we ended up getting the 2028 Games. So if you guys don't know yet, I'm sure most of you know, Los Angeles is going to host the Games in 2028. And we're working steady and hard to realize the vision and the plans for those games to happen. In addition to all of that, I'd just like to give a nod to Sylvia. Your home island is beautiful. I visited Sardinia before. I spent a week there. So if you guys are watching here, I recommend everyone to go to Italy at one point in your lives. It's just a beautiful place.
Let me just, I second that. And I also would say everyone should hopefully visit Brazil at some point in their lives. Can you tell us more about where you're from?
Yep. So I'm Brazilian, but I think of myself a little bit of, a nomad. I grew up in different places around South America as a kid. I lived for 6 years in Venezuela, for 3.5 years in Argentina. I lived in a bunch of different places in Brazil. So at a young age, I got to travel a lot and I got to experience a lot of different cultures. And I think that's what opened my eyes a little bit to trying to recreate some of those places that I've experienced, and directed me towards wanting to become an architect. But in the beginning, it wasn't as clear for me because I ended up choosing engineering. When I was about 17 years old, I applied for engineering and for architecture. I got accepted for engineering school. I was really good at math, so I thought it made a lot of sense to do that. I liked physics. But then a couple of years in, I realized that it wasn't really fulfilling the passion that I had. I thought it was maybe a little bit too, I mean, this is not to put down any engineers or people that want to do engineering, but for me, it was a little bit too narrowing. And I wanted to open my, my eyes and vision and my creativity to the world. So after 2 years, I decided to change majors. So I'd like to give this advice to people that if you realize, after a year or after some time that you are not happy and that you may have not chosen well, know that it's still early in your lives to change paths. And that's not only in school, that's after when you're, working in a professional manner. You want to be able to build flexibility and then know that you can change paths and course whenever you don't feel happy or fulfilled.
That is excellent advice. Thank you for that. And so you went to the university and you began studying as an engineer and then switched to architecture. And so you ended up with a bachelor's in architecture. Is that what, from that point, was AECOM your first job, or had you worked in other venues before that?
Yeah, so similar to Sylvia, I'm a bachelor back in Brazil licensed. I am not licensed here in the US. Same thing. I graduated in 2010, and my first year and a half, I worked at a master planning and urban design company in Brazil. We were designing, some large developments for housing and, some retail and commercial spaces as well. This company, one of my professors worked for them. So another thing I recommend, you creating a very tight bond with your professors, and the ones that you like the most maybe are the ones that you can approach after you graduate. Actually got offered a job as soon as I graduated with them. And then one of my friends was actually working, well, this is life is a little bit funny that you think you have it all planned and it suddenly changes. So what happened was a friend knew a person that worked for AECOM and they were looking to hire. And my name was put, in that hat, and they called me and I interviewed and it worked out. The manager that interviewed me, he was Australian working in Brazil for the games. And one of my, 5-year plans back then was, okay, I'm a person of the world. I don't want to stay in Brazil. So I want to be in a place that allows me to, in about 5 years' time, go and live somewhere else. And I was super clear with my manager from the beginning that my long-term plan was moving abroad. So working in a company that has offices all around the world made a lot of sense. And that's when I decided to switch and work on the sports world and fell in love. And that's, I'm full steam ahead, planning for 2028 now.
Very cool. So can you tell us a little bit more on the day-to-day level? What is your job? Like, what are your main focuses during the day as your work as a master planner?
So there's a couple of different things. And depending on the project, there's a bunch of different things that we do as well. In Rio, I was working on designing the venues for the park. So the day-to-day was, understanding the requirements, understanding the stakeholders' needs, and then sitting down and designing that and, rounds of design, and then you had to run it through the client, but also, the federation, because they own the sport in sorts. Right now in LA, because there's a couple of different things here, we're right now 8 years out. But when I joined, we were 12 years out. We're laying the foundation of that work. We are making sure that the plan, that we can deliver on the plan and on the promise. So And then LA as well, we're not building any new permanent facilities, so we're gonna use temporary venues for the sports that require them, but most of the sports are gonna use existing facilities like the Staples Center, like the new Rams Stadium, and all of the amazing venues around the region. So our day-to-day is, just planning with the client, running cost estimates, running different options, seeing if, a question can happen here or can happen there, and then, making plans for the different options, discussing them with the International Olympic Committee and the International Federation. So it's a lot of planning right now, and it's a lot of making sure that we can set ourselves on the right path for the next 8 years.
Okay, thanks. And someone asked this question about the work you can do as an architect with a license versus without. Does that, what is that like for you, or how can you explain that difference?
Well, in my case, if you are on the team within a team of architects, you don't need all of them to be licensed, right? Mm-hmm. I myself am not. It doesn't change my day-to-day whatsoever. My boss is, and actually my boss sits in London. We have, he is American, he lives in London. He's, flying all the time. He's American, but it's, in my case, and we're so far out from designing and building things that I could be licensed by then. So it's in the pipeline, and but taking Sylvia's advice, you want to get licensed as soon as you are out of school, because it's all fresh in your mind, because it's going to require a lot of studying again if I go that route.
Right. Since we are running close on time, can you tell us what are some of your biggest accomplishments, things you're most proud of that you've done so far?
I'd like to share my screen for that one.
Oh, yes, please do.
Let me know you can see it.
Yes.
So another project that AECOM is working on is the new Clippers arena in Englewood. I've met and I've been in the same room with Sil Ballmer a couple of times, so that's awesome. This is a rendering of the arena. I am really proud of having worked on this project, because at one point, so when you design an arena, you start with a program, right? You have to fit the program. You have to start with a court and the stands and the bowl, and everything has to be right. So that's your main focus. And then the Clippers as well, they wanted their practice facility to be under the same roof. So we were advancing with the client on the program, and they were agreeing on what we were saying. But at one point, how do we bring all of this together? So we went through a number of different rounds on what the look of the building was going to be, until one point we were looking at their brand guidelines for when they rebranded, and they were always talking about being bold and being in your face kind of attitude. And one of the imagery that they were using was just a ball through the basket and swooshing on the net. And that's a little bit of inspiration that led us to this design. So, and the idea was that the logo being a basketball, what would it look like if that basketball, was being dunked on the roof of the building, and the building was a net, and it was, moving with that swoosh motion. So we came up with this idea. It's all designed using Grasshopper, which is a 3D parametric design tool. It uses a lot of functions, a lot of math. So I was happy with that. And we ended up with this design, and then we started, opening up a little bit of spaces. This is the main lobby. This, other line here switches from the, center hung all the way to the front, the offices and the practice facility. So hopefully when this gets built and opens in 2024, it'll look similar to what we had imagined, and I'm really proud of being part of that project.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for giving us. Oh yeah, you have another one?
No, there's just a little video. I don't know if it's just a minute long. I don't know if anyone has seen it, but I think.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't know if the sound is gonna.
We can't hear the sound, but
I don't know if we can hear it, but if you want to share the link,
yeah,
then everyone could check it out.
Yeah, well, it's just sort of like a trailer.
Okay. Yeah, share the link with us. I think everyone would
I'll share
like to check it out. I just wanted one more question. Sylvia talked a bit about architecture being a career that you put a lot of yourself into, working all hours. How has that been? Has that been the case for you?
Yes, definitely through school. Lots of sleepless nights. And then when you start working and you get close to your deadline, it's, all hands on deck, and, delivering the project and submitting that to the client is the most important thing. And it's what you sign up to do. So, it's definitely long nights, sometimes weekends, and especially during the COVID, I've worked countless Sundays. You spread out your work week a little bit when you're working from home, and but different to Sylvia, where she has to handle, manage a lot of different projects at the same time. Planning for an Olympics, you are also managing a lot of different projects within a major project, but your deadlines are usually the last 2 to 3 years. So that's when you start. Right now, I'm gonna say it's a little bit easier, but it'll get to a point that you have 200 people, 200 architects working, sleepless nights, and just going full steam ahead to deliver.
And do you have any tips for how to maintain, how to take care of yourself during this most stressful times? Things that you do.
Well, try to take naps.
It's okay for adults to take naps.
Yeah, well, for sure. It's try to rest your mental space however you can. If it's not naps, if it's going out on a walk or hiking or doing whatever, try to turn off whenever you can. Take weekend travels and all that. Don't party too much when you're close to a deadline. But yeah, you just have to make sure you take care of your body and your mind as well.
Thank you. So I know there may be more questions, but we'll get to that at the end. So I'm going to turn it back over to Lynn. Thank you so much, Rodrigo, for sharing your work with us.
Yeah,
sure.
that was awesome. Thank you. I wish I could take naps. All right. Well, we're going to move on to Alan Hotchkiss. Alan Hotchkiss is here, and he is an architect at Studio William Hester. Alan, welcome.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good. We're so excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company that you work for and what you do.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I went to school there, went to undergrad there at the University of New Mexico. I got my bachelor's, and then I moved out to LA in 2009 to go to grad school at USC. And I kind of knew for a while that I wanted to be an architect, at least since high school. I always knew that I wanted to build something or get into construction somehow. So it kind of grew out of that. And then in high school, I was lucky enough to have a teacher who had been an architect, and he taught some art history courses and drafting courses that I took. So that kind of, got me into it. And I started working at Studio William Hefner about 6 years ago in 2014. And so we do almost all residential projects, a few multifamily, but mostly single family homes all around the city, and a few elsewhere. I've done a project in Seattle. We do a few down in San Diego every once in a while, and we have an office up in Santa Barbara as well. So we kind of do them all around Southern California. But yeah, it's been really great to work here and kind of grow. I am a licensed architect. I got my license 3 years ago, and I was lucky enough to find a firm that paid for the license, because the tests can be kind of expensive to take all of them. And when I took them, there was 8 exams, and now I think there are 6, so it's not too bad. But that's something that I wanted to do really kind of for my own, I always wanted to be licensed. So that was kind of like a personal goal for me. So that's what I wanted to do. But as Rodrigo was saying, in our firm, we're about 50 people, but we have maybe, I think, 6 or 7 licensed architects. So it's not something that you need to do, as in order to get into the work. But yeah, it's kind of where we are.
Is getting your license really difficult?
It's pretty hard. Like I said, I think right now there are, I think 5 national exams you have to take, and then
Mm-hmm.
1 special California specific exam that's just over California laws and California regulations, earthquake design. And so it kind of covers everything. I mean, 1 exam is over structural engineering. 1 exam is about site planning and building layout. 1 exam is over materials and how materials work together and how you can use them in a building. And 1 is about professional practice, how to run a firm and how to deal with clients. So they kind of really encompass all of architecture. So in that respect, it is hard to pass,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to make sure that if you're becoming a licensed architect, that you're capable of designing something that's not going to fall down or injure someone, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So yeah, but once you get that license, then it's really rewarding to be able to say, I did that, and I can practice architecture now.
Mm-hmm. Are there a lot of were you able to get an internship through the company that you work for right now, or are there a lot of internship opportunities for students who are interested in becoming an architect?
It kind of depends. Architecture is one of those fields that is very dependent on how the economy is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I graduated undergrad in 2009, back during the last recession, there weren't really any jobs or internships for anyone in architecture. So that's why I decided to go straight into grad school rather than, trying to get a job or an internship. But I think it's something that you should definitely do. And we occasionally take on an intern if they're in undergrad or grad school. But I think it's architecture is one of those fields where there's so many different paths that you can take. You can
Mm-hmm.
some people don't even go to college to get a bachelor's. They just go work straight at a firm, and if you work for 10 years under the
Mm-hmm.
guidance of an architect, then you can get licensed that way. Or
Wow.
you can take the more traditional approach where you get a bachelor's and a master's and then take the exams. Or some people will get their bachelor's degree and then go work somewhere for a few years and then go back and get their master's degree. So it's one of those fields where there's so many different paths you can take depending on what you want to do. And kind of going on the question of what your advice would be for, or what I would tell myself back when I was in high school. I wish I knew that, because for me it was always kind of like bachelor's degree, master's degree, get a license. But I wish, and I'm glad that it worked out well for me that way. But there's so many different ways to approach the field if you're interested in it. And there's so many different, within architecture, there's so many different things you can do. In our firm, we have 4 architecture studios, we have an interior design studio, and we have a landscape architecture studio. And they all kind of work together on these projects. So, I'll be working on the building, the interior design department will be, selecting furniture and fixtures, and then our landscape team will be designing the site around the building. And some people get into architecture because they're really interested in construction details and how parts of the building go together physically, and other people are more interested in just the design of it. So
Mhm.
it's one of those fields where there's so many different things you can do within it. So definitely keep an open mind and pursue what you're interested in.
That's amazing. That's great advice too. May I ask, what was your major and what degree did you get for your for your undergrad and for your graduate degree?
It was bachelor's in architecture from
Okay,
UNM.
so it's architecture.
Yeah, and I minored in Spanish just because I've always been interested in Spanish too.
Hmm.
And then at USC it was a master's in architecture and urbanism. So yeah, undergrad I think is a great time to pursue many different interests that you have. And then graduate school is where it kind of all gets focused down into this is specifically about architecture.
Hmm.
So another piece of advice I would give is wherever you go to college, university, yeah, pursue your different interests. And it's said that engineers know everything about one thing and architects know a little bit about everything. And
Hmm.
I've definitely found that to be true. It's because architects can do everything from designing massive skyscrapers down to the doorknobs that go in that skyscraper. So there's just yeah, many different um, pursuits within architecture, and that's
Hmm.
kind of what I like about it, because there's never a dull moment. There's so many different things to do, whether it's you're trying to design a space that feels comfortable for your clients, or whether they've asked you to design a little plaster detail decoration on the wall. There's just so many different things to do, so
Hmm.
you never get bored.
That's awesome. Um, I noticed you're in your office and you have a lot of really cool trinkets in your background. Would you be able to
Right.
share your space a
Yeah,
little bit and show us what you
sure.
have
So
going on back there?
yeah, I can show you one. So this isn't a project that I worked on, but this is a model that we built. We'll often build these models for our clients because it kind of helps them to understand the space, what their house is going to look like, and kind of really get a sense of what's going on in the project. So these are very helpful, and of course in school, I mean, you will build these all the time. So that's very helpful. I have a few other things on the computer. I'll share my screen
Oh, yes, please do.
and kind of show you. Let's see. So this is a project I'm working on right now. This is a house in Hancock Park. It's an existing house that we're remodeling. So a lot of projects that we do here, and we do traditional architecture, we do contemporary, we do all kinds. But this is an interesting case because Hancock Park, they care a lot about the look of the neighborhood and maintaining that historical character in the neighborhood. So there's a lot of rules of what you can do, what you can't do to a building. But I kind of wanted to show you because, I think a lot of people have the idea that if you're an architect, you're kind of doing blueprints and drafting all the time. But really, most of the work these days for most firms, it's all digital, and you almost kind of build the entire building digitally before you even put the foundation in the ground, and that's really helpful because it helps you, see where there might be conflicts or issues that arise, and it's easier to catch them, beforehand rather than when it's too late. So you can kind of see if I pull this down onto the inside, we kind of model all the doors and windows and plumbing fixtures, and everything kind of goes into the project now. And like I said, it's great because you get to see any issues that might come up during construction. And especially when you're doing a remodel project like this one, it's very helpful to see, what your limitations are, because there's always walls that you can't move, or structural walls,
Mhm.
plumbing that you can't move, things like that. So it's very helpful. This is another project that I'm working on right now. This is a ground up project. This is a bit north of the city, up in the hills a ways, off Mulholland. So on this one, they have a garage here, and the husband and wife both work from home, so they wanted an office space above the garage. So we designed that, and their house here. So we have a pool that kind of goes off the site here, and the same thing. We build it all in the computer before we even hire a contractor to build it. And the interesting thing, and the thing that I've loved about working here, is that William Hefner, who is the architect and the owner of the firm, in many ways, he's very old school. He still, draws and sketches by hand all of the designs. And then our job is to kind of take his ideas and transform them into, something that can actually be built, like this. So from this, I can show you a few more projects, just to show you, we also do a lot of contemporary houses. This is one that I finished, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So I was really proud about this. The client's idea, this is in Beverly Hills. And so they wanted the outside to be very traditional, to fit in with the neighborhood and not really stick out like a lot of contemporary homes do. But on the inside, they wanted it to be very modern and contemporary.
Hey,
so
Alan.
Yeah.
We're still seeing the Mulholland Drive.
Oh,
house.
Sorry. Oh, is that better?
Oh, I don't know why it's not showing.
Oh, let me try this.
There we go.
Okay.
Wow,
There you go.
that looks beautiful.
Thanks for letting me know, Rodrigo.
Wow.
So like I said, very traditional exteriors to not be, really stick out in the neighborhood. They wanted to be very understated. But then on the inside, they wanted it to be very contemporary. So that was kind of hard to pull off that combination, but I think in the end, they were very happy with the way it turned out, and it was an interesting exercise of how you fit, very contemporary open floor plan in a very traditional shell.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I wish I could have a house like that. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. What are some traits that an architect needs to have to be successful?
I think you have to be very curious about, everything involved with architecture, and sketch a lot, take your sketchbook everywhere. Because the thing I didn't really understand when I got into this profession, but it's really a lifelong learning process. And it's one of those careers where, you just get better and better with age. So, William is in his 60s, and, people say, architects never retire because there's just so much to learn about the profession, and, so many skills, these millions of different components that go into a house, whether it's the best layout for a bathroom, or whether it's knowing that you have to use these kinds of screws with this kind of plywood, or knowing that, stone has to be installed a certain way, or knowing about plumbing fixture codes and electrical codes and structural engineering. So it's one of those professions where you just build up your knowledge over time, and you have to constantly be learning. And actually, in order to maintain my license, every 2 years, I have to take some courses about, accessibility and universal design. And they require a certain number of, the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, requires a certain number of hours every year of learning credits to make sure that you keep up on, the trends in architecture and building codes and things like that. And especially in California, where every 3 years there's a new building code and they revise it, whether it's to be safer for earthquakes, or whether it's to be better for accessibility for people in wheelchairs, or people who might be blind or deaf, to make sure that the spaces cater to everyone, or whether it's energy efficiency, to make sure, climate change is such a big issue now. And, I think 70% of the world's energy usage is from buildings, if it's lighting, electrical things. So, architects are really at the forefront of making sure that, we can take control of climate change and help, turn that around. So really, yeah, being curious about everything, learning constantly. And like I said, even if it's not related at all to architecture, maybe it's you're interested in music or art or learning a language. I mean, it all kind of ties back together, because at its core, architecture is about critical thinking. And if you develop that muscle, then, that's how you become a great architect.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. All right. I know we're pushing towards the end of the time, and I want to make sure we have enough room. Alan, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, we're going to open it up to Q&A session. Sorry for going a little bit over time, but there's just so much cool information we're learning about here. So if anybody has questions, please type that in the chat box. I'm going to go ahead and scroll up to see if there were some questions that we didn't get to. We'll make sure to ask those questions right now. So let's see here. Renaya asked, would architecture and interior designer be the same thing? My friend is the interior designer at Alan's office, and I
guess I could talk a little bit about that. So we have, they're definitely related, and they're definitely integral to each other. Interior design is more about, what you do with the space as it's built, and it's more, I guess the best way to differentiate it is that architecture is everything that you can't take with you in the house or the space. So, the windows, walls, floor, obviously, and interior design is, the furniture, lighting fixtures, plumbing fixtures, things like that. And, some firms, it's only that. Some other firms, it goes to the finishes. Do you have wallpaper? Do you have plaster? Do you have stone or metal? And selecting those, but they're definitely integrated with each other. And the best projects, you both work together to make it happen.
That's wonderful. I hope that answers your question, Renea. Let's see here. Do architectures put the price when you build houses, or who decides the price on the property? Does anybody know? It could be anybody. Okay.
Well, we usually are, at least our clients always have a budget. Then they say either it's this much per square foot or, this much overall. So it's definitely our responsibility to work within that budget. And I'm sure, Rodrigo and Sylvia, I'm sure all of their projects have budgets too that they can talk about. But obviously, if someone's budget to build a house is $1 million and you design something and you bid it to a contractor and it comes back at $2 million, they're not going to be happy with you. So, it's definitely, it's a big part of architecture to be within the client's budget. Unless you ever get those dream clients that are billionaires and they just say design whatever you want.
Wow. My son here asked, when applying as an undergraduate in architecture, will colleges want you to take art classes in high school? Is that a requirement? Because this could be for Sylvia, Rodrigo, or Alan. Did you guys take any art classes when you were in high school?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
It was okay. We had art classes included in our curriculum. We didn't have to take extra curricular classes. So, but Italy also has a very different program when it comes to schools. So I don't know how it works here. I can just talk for myself. It is not required. As long as you're able to pass the admission test, you're in. And then of course it's up to you to make up for what you're the subjects you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in the US, I think typically most programs, they assume that you don't know that much going into it. And like I said, I took drafting courses in high school, which kind of helped inspire me to go into architecture, but
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely not required. And as long as you know some math and you have creativity, you'll learn all you need to in architecture school. I think the more important thing is just to have that passion and hard work ethic to stick with it.
Thank you. I have a question here from Arya. She says, what is the hardest thing about designing a building or a house or a project? This could be for anybody. How about for you, Rodrigo? What's the hardest thing about planning for the Olympics?
Well, in my case, it's just, there's so many stakeholders that have at times different opinions and different needs. And especially with the Olympics, imagine that you're designing a venue, and then the federation that's going to run that sport wants something done in a way because it's best for the athletes. But then you have the broadcasters tell you, no, I want it done a different way because it's best for television. So you're always in the middle trying to balance the needs and wants of all the stakeholders, and making sure that when there's compromise, that you're able to appease those things and don't go over budget, right? Because it would be easy to just, okay, we'll give everyone what they want, but in the end, you can't really do that. So I think in my world, I think the hardest part is just balancing out those different pools.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. How about for you, Sylvia?
If I can add something to what Rodrigo just said, one of the hardest tasks, I believe, is coordination of the job site. You are dealing with a lot of different trades, a general contractor, the client. So you have to make sure that there is synergy between all these factors with all these factors, because people want different things. The client wants one thing, but the trades tell you, no, this is not how you do it, and there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth all the time. So I think that's one very big challenge. It's not really something that shows up when you are drawing, when you're drafting the project, but you have site conditions sometimes that you didn't foresee, and you have to adapt the project and make changes because of that.
Wow, thank you. And how about for you, Alan? What is the most challenging part about starting on a project or building a house?
I would say I would definitely agree with Sylvia. The clients always want one thing, the contractor wants another thing. The clients want it be as fast and cheap as possible, and the contractor obviously wants to build it a certain way. So kind of managing all of that so that at the end of the day everyone is happy with the result is definitely the hard part. And keeping it within building codes. California has the strictest building codes in the country for a reason. I mean, we have earthquakes here. We have very strict energy standards. So keeping also the city departments happy with your project can be another difficulty.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, guys, I am ready to. Thank you, David, for giving us your advice. Sylvia, is that your husband?
Yes.
Oh, good. Hi,
He's
David.
an architect as well.
All right. Well, I have this one question I want to ask all of you. What do you guys, I know Rodrigo answered this earlier. I didn't get to ask Sylvia this or Alan. What do you guys do for self-care? Like, it seems like being an architect or senior designer is very time consuming, but how do you take time to step away to focus on yourself and to take care of yourself?
In my case, Lynn, you already know.
We
It's
run marathons.
Oh, wow.
So that's how you manage to vent a lot.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Sylvia and I, we run a lot. How about for you, Alan?
Yeah, it's been hard because, my office is all work from home right now because of COVID. And, it used to be easier working in the office, even if you have late nights, then you go home after and you can kind of decompress. And now the office is the home and it's the same. So it's difficult, but I think picking up new hobbies, I'm trying to learn piano right now. Going out for walks and being outside in nature as much as possible helps so much. So you're not just inside all the time, but yeah, having hobbies and things that are completely unrelated to architecture is so important so that you're not just stuck in it, 24 hours a day, and you can decompress a little bit afterwards.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right. I know we're running out of time, or we're out of time, really. Jessica, do we have anything else we want to ask our awesome guest speakers, or anything else?
I don't know if anyone has any questions. You want to raise your hand. This is your last chance to do it. And as a reminder, next week there is no regular career day, but we are inviting you to watch the Los Angeles Public Library's teen council groups at different libraries are going to be presenting in a showcase the projects that they've been working on over the past 6 months. So everyone's invited to watch on the LAPL YouTube and Facebook Live channels. That's going to be from 4 to 5 p.m. next Wednesday. So we're taking a 1-week break, and in 2 weeks we're coming back with a group of recent college grads who studied abroad or worked abroad. So please come to that. It will be very interesting and hopefully inspire you guys to do the same one day.
Yes. So we
and yes, we will send emails.
We will definitely send you emails.
We want you to attend these things. So
yeah, absolutely.
But thank you to all of our great guests today. It was nice to have a wide variety of experiences within the architecture planning world. So we really appreciate your time.
Yes, super appreciative. We learned so much about your jobs, and I'm just so amazed and so appreciative, and I have so much respect for you and your profession.
Great. Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us, guys. This was good. It was cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan, Rodrigo, and Sylvia. And then Jessica and I will stay here for the next 5 minutes, but we're going to tune out. And if anybody has any questions, please do send us an email. We're here all the time. So yeah, we have a lot of really cool guest speakers coming up in the next few weeks. I just booked an optometrist. And we have the FBI coming in the next few weeks as well. So it's going to be a lot of really cool jobs for you guys to learn about. And please do take the time to fill out the survey to let us know how we're doing. And if there's any other careers you'd like to learn more about, let us know and I will go find those people. Okay, but thank you everybody for coming today. Thank you, Alan, Rodrigo, and Sylvia. I will send you guys an email soon. So have an amazing week. Stay safe. Stay indoors. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Social distance. All right, everybody. So take care.
Thanks.
Bye. I'm going to stop recording.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.